331 BC, near the small village of Gaugamela, in present-day Iraq, two vast forces of men are engaged in a battle for the future of the world. On one side is the great king of Persia, Darius, commander of the largest army on earth.
He probably had 200 to 250,000 men on the field.
On the other side is an army one-fifth the size, led by a 26-year-old named Alexander.
He was, at this point in his young life, a veteran commander.
Prepare to experience the greatest battle of the ancient world like never before. Witness firsthand the innovative strategies and weapons of war.
They'd have a weapon much like this, a very aerodynamic spear.
Who was Alexander? How could he possibly face an army 5 times his number?
His tactics are still in use today. His ideas are still in use today.
What was Alexander's secret weapon?
Alexander was a phenomenon.
Go back in time and experience one of the world's greatest battles.
Gaugamela was a turning point in world history.
The lines have been drawn, the odds impossible. Prepare for battle. It's a fight to the finish that will change history forever and define one young man as Alexander the Great. His army standing at the ready for the entire night. It was not a cohesive force, but a series of armed groups levied from the governors or satraps of every corner of the empire.
The king would go to the satrap and say, your tax this year is 1,000 men. And he might have a huge variety of these from different places. He fought with Ethiopians. He fought with Bactrians, who would be Afghanistan today. They were all over the place, and they may speak different languages, have different cultures, have different weapons.
Most Persian warriors wore no armor and no helmet. Each carried an 8-foot spear and a shield made of wicker. But what the Persian army lacked in armor and weapons, they made up for in numbers.
You think of the Persians, they're not a bunch of yahoos. The tactics that they're using have been effective for hundreds of years. The Persians have a huge empire. It's been good enough.
Against this enormous army, Alexander has one advantage.
Hot!
This professional army has the Macedonian phalanx. Captain Dale Dye, retired officer, historian, and film consultant, has studied the Macedonian approach to warfare.
The Macedonian phalanx, probably the most potent weapon of war in the ancient world. The phalanx, blocks of individuals, 256 men, arranged 16 across by 16 deep.
Once you were in the formation and going forward, you really had no choice as to whether you were going to go backwards or not. You were definitely going forward with this massive wall of human muscle and spear points, and that's what made it so overwhelming.
In the front rank were the most veteran fighters, the fighters who had proved their courage, their bravery on the battlefield, who could be relied on to go forth and contact the enemy. He carried a small shield. The shield was suspended by a strap from his neck so that it would help support the weight. More importantly, that would allow his left hand, his shield hand, to be free. Not grasping the shield, but free, so that he could reach over and grasp his primary weapon. And his primary weapon was the sarissa. Now, we believe sarissas were somewhere between 16 and 18 feet long.
Up to this point, the principal combatants were carrying 7 to 8 foot spears. Philip gave the infantry longer spears. His phalanx now had greater standoff than the average Greek or Persians would have.
Think this way. 256 sarissas. 16 to 18 feet long. In front of the phalanx, a bristling hedgehog of spear points that the enemy could not get under, around, or over. How intimidating was the phalanx? Let's take a look at what a Persian trooper might have seen. Phalanx, battle positions, move! Ah!
At dawn on the morning of October 1st, 331 BC, the phalanx began to form on the battlefield at Gaugamela.
Arrayed to the right of the phalanx was generally a unit of heavy infantry, what the Greeks called hoplites. They carried a large shield, unlike the smaller phalangite shield. The shield was known as a hoplon. In combat, it could be used to bludgeon the enemy, back him up, knock him over, which would provide time for the hoplite to use his primary sidearm, a sword. In many cases, a leaf blade sword like this, a short sword, unlike the medieval cleavers that you see.